Welcome to Season 2, Episode 11 of Angela Watson's Truth for Teachers. I'm your host, Angela Watson, and I'm here to speak life, encouragement, and truth into the minds and hearts of educators and get you energized for the week ahead. Today, I'm going to share some thoughts on beating the October blues. Visit truthforteachers.com to get the transcript, links to recommended resources, and share your thoughts on the show. So even though I haven't asked you all to leave reviews for the show at all this season, I recently looked in iTunes and I saw a bunch of new reviews that were really, really touching. And I just wanted to say thank you to all of you who took the time to do that. And thank you also to those of you who have left comments on the blog posts or on Facebook or on Twitter to say thanks. Podcasting is kind of a weird experience sometimes because I'm basically just sitting in my living room talking to myself about whatever I want to talk about. And it's hard to tell if anyone is listening or is going to care about what I'm saying. Your comments and reviews really encourage me to keep going with this podcast. Believe it or not, it takes about 3 to 5 hours to produce a single 10-minute episode. There's a ton of work behind the scenes, researching and planning the topics and the schedule, outlining the episodes, recording them, writing the blog post. It's a lot, even with the help of my wonderful editor, Monica, and my podcast engineer, Sapun. It's not something that I would do if I didn't feel like it was really helping teachers. So I'm just kind of plugging along with this, and then I read stuff like this from Christopher Nessie, who wrote on iTunes. Angela, you are literally breathing life and truth into a profession that is seemingly under fire. Your content and insight is a welcome voice that I and all teachers should turn to on a weekly basis. Your content is easily digestible, and I can't wait for new episodes to be released. The podcast is worth listening to, hands down. And teacher and mom of two, who wrote, Angela's podcast is by far the best podcast for teachers. She is authentic and knowledgeable. I listen to her every single day, even though I've already heard them all. I look forward to season 2. She had written that over the summer. And then there's Christine X1, who wrote this on iTunes. I followed Angela for years through her book and her website. When my niece graduated and I became a teacher, I bought her Angela's book. She has a way of looking for the positive without denying the issues we face. I enjoy her practical solutions and proactive ideas. Each podcast is short, so I can play one in my car on the way to school. I've recommended it to several friends already. Each one seems to hit the mark, and I come away with new ideas. Thank you, Angela. There are many, many more people I'd like to thank, so even if I didn't read your review or your comment just now, please know I've read it and I appreciate your kind words more than you can imagine. If you've ever debated about whether or not to leave feedback on Teachers Pay Teachers or write a book review or Amazon or podcast review on iTunes and just wonder, does this really matter? Yes, it does. The person who created that resource that you're reviewing cares immensely and is so appreciative of your comments. So thank you for encouraging me. And now let's go back to our normal routine here and let me share some encouragement with you. I know that October can be a really tough month for teachers, even though I feel like that's not really talked about very much. My friend Roxana Eldon, who is fabulous and hilarious, she's a high school teacher in Miami, and she's the author of the book See Me After Class, which is excellent. Roxana was one of the first people that I've heard address what she calls the October blues. Roxana made me realize that teachers do face a low point in October sometimes, and this is something that we should be talking about. I want to spread the word. If you are feeling completely discouraged right now, and you don't know how you can possibly make it until June, that is completely normal, and it makes sense within the context of the school year. You see, in October, the optimism that comes with having a fresh start at back to school has faded a lot. October is a period often of disillusionment. Our hopes ran high over the summer, when we're dreaming about our classrooms and imagining what our new group of students will be like. But by October, reality has really come crashing down on us. Those beautiful supplies that you spent your money on are all broken or lost or disorganized. And the community and rapport building exercises that you planned got pushed back so many times due to a lack of time that you're not even sure if they're worth implementing now, even if the class isn't getting along the way that you'd like. And you're at a place where you're afraid to try something new with your routines because you don't want to throw the kids off, but it's becoming glaringly obvious that the way things are going now isn't great, and you don't want to just maintain the status quo until June. Another problem with October is that the holiday breaks are still weeks away. At the beginning of the year, we have several 3 and 4 day weeks, which really help us ease into the back to school routine. But by mid-October, we've got a grueling 5-day-a-week schedule ahead of us until Thanksgiving. And there's no other breaks after Thanksgiving until Christmas or winter break. And people who aren't teachers might think that we're whining if we complain about this, but what they don't realize is that teachers depend on those days off to catch up on things. That's when we do our grading and our lesson planning. A bunch of 5-day weeks in a row is good because we can really establish routines with kids and we can really get into a flow with teaching. But all that teaching and learning also produces a tremendous backlog of paperwork and planning and assessment, and there's just too little time to handle any of it. The final problem with October is that at this point in the year, the end of the year, our end point seems really, really far away. And it starts to hit you that the obnoxious student behavior, which is currently driving you nuts 5 minutes into the school day, could be part of your reality every day for 8 more months. And so you start questioning your stamina, like, can I really keep doing this until June? I'm this tired and it's only a few weeks into the school year. What have I gotten myself into? If that's how you're feeling right now, once again, it's normal. But normal doesn't mean healthy. And normal also doesn't mean required. You're not alone in feeling this way, but you can change your perception of the situation so that it feels less stressful and feels less overwhelming to you. Here's what you do. Start by recognizing that you are allowing your mind to wander way too far ahead. You're already anticipating the stress of things that aren't going to happen for many more weeks, and you're trying to figure out how you're going to have the energy to do something that is still months away. That means you're creating your own stress because you're anticipating problems that haven't actually happened yet. You're worrying about how you think the year might unfold instead of just focusing on what needs to be done today and what's happening right now. You don't need the strength for 185 days of school right now. All you need is strength for today. And if even that feels overwhelming, then break it down even further. You really only need strength for this very moment, right here in the present. Can you make it through right now, these next 10 seconds? Yes, you can. Then make it through the next 10 seconds. And when the panic starts to fade, take it 10 minutes at a time. Can you make it through the next 10 minutes? Through the next hour? Can you make it through this one day? So I wrote in my book, Awakened, Change Your Mindset to Transform Your Teaching, about research showing that 92% of the things we worry about never come to pass. 92% of our worries, they never happen. That kid who's driving you crazy could transfer to another school in a few days. Or another student might transfer into your class and shift the whole dynamic in ways that you never thought possible. Or that test that you feel positive a student is never going to pass could actually be an attainable goal for him or her in a few more months. Or that parent that you assume is going to keep giving you a hard time every single week could very well back off a little bit, or even become more supportive as the year progresses. So stop living in the future. Don't let your mind race ahead and try to solve problems that haven't even happened yet. Remind yourself, these are not real problems for me to face right now. The only thing I need to deal with right now is the tasks that are right in front of me, my circumstances right in this moment. I can handle what's happening right now. I can do this. Keep bringing your mind back to the present moment. The other thing that you have to do to beat the October blues is to stop comparing your present reality to what you hoped the school year would be like. It's time to let go of that idealized version of teaching that you dreamed about over the summer and embrace what is actually happening. Every teacher gets thrown a bunch of curveballs. We end up teaching a different grade level or in a different room than we thought we'd be in. We get new students added to the roster at the last minute. We have all kinds of changes that are sprung on us overnight. That is just par for the course in teaching. So we can't hold on too tightly to what we want our work to look like. Flexibility and resilience are really not optional character traits for teachers. Flexibility and resilience are crucial elements of our success. So embrace those little and big annoyances that cause you to learn how to be flexible and that give you the opportunity to practice resilience. Find an experienced teacher in your building who is just unshakable. Nothing seems to throw him or her off because that person has seen everything and is just done riding the emotional roller coaster. When you start to get overwhelmed, go hang around that teacher. If there's no teacher in your building like that, then find one online. Go on Twitter chats or Facebook groups or teacher blogs. Surround yourself with people who are determined to love teaching no matter what, and who will encourage you to keep going during the tough times. Even though it sounds like a cliche, you have to stay focused on the positive. Cliches are based on truth. That's why they get repeated over and over again and become part of our common wisdom. Complaining and focusing about the negative is going to wear you down. So use your interactions with other teachers to talk about solutions rather than seeking out people who are going to vent with you. You'll feel a lot better if you spend your evening celebrating the good stuff and looking for new ways to make the next day better instead of complaining and rehashing problems. You are not alone, and it's going to get better in the months to come. I'm going to leave you with a motivational quote for the week ahead that I call the takeaway truth. And here's your takeaway truth I want you to remember this week. The reason why people give up is because they look at how far they still have to go instead of how far they've come already. You see, the hardest weeks of the school year are already behind you. Look at what you have accomplished already. Celebrate every little success, not only in your mind when you're tempted to replay that endless to-do list, but celebrate with children. Don't get distracted by the documentation and the paperwork and the meetings. Handle your business, but always, always keep your heart and mind focused on the kids. They're the best part of this job, and it's only going to get better with them from here on out. Have a fantastic week. You can do this. And remember, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be worth it. Truth for Teachers is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. For more great podcast recommendations, go to edupodcastnetwork.com. That's edupodcastnetwork.com.